In this video, we're going to look at how to set up our Google Tag Manager. I'm also going to show you how to implement Google Analytics into our Google Tag Manager. And I'm also going to explain what Google Tag Manager is and why it's useful for your clinic's website. So let's start at the beginning. Google Tag Manager is a platform developed by Google that allows marketers and non-developers to apply codes to their website. It allows us to put in things that would be useful for Facebook, so like the Facebook pixel, our Google Analytics, which I'm going to show you in this video, and also it allows us to easily set up tracking so we can see how any social media campaigns or Google ad campaigns are performing, as we can set up all that tracking that we need right within Google Tag Manager. So firstly, let's get started on setting it up. So you need to come over to your Google. You can use Bing, but type in Google Tag Manager and you'll get this first link here, and just click on that. Now this will take you to this screen and you can just click here, start for free, and I'll open up another window. And this will be the screen that you're met with. Again, as with the Google Analytics, make sure you're signed in with the email address that you're going to use across all of the Google platforms: Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, and Google Ads. Now, once you're at this screen, you want to come over and click Create Account, and you want to call it, give it a name. Ideally, make it something, your clinic name, for example. Then we're going to change this to United Kingdom. And then come down here and we're going to give it, our account container, a name. Now, again, this doesn't really matter what it is. If you have multiple websites with different URLs, you would probably want to name each container in line with your website. So if, again, with the same way with the Google Analytics, if you have a website for your London clinic, you would put the London clinic URL here, or just call it London Clinic. If you had another one in Portsmouth, you would then do that for the Portsmouth one. For this example, I'm just going to put in test.com. And now you're met with a couple of options here. We're going to pick web. You can ignore the rest. As this explains, this one here is just for iOS apps. This is for Android apps. This is for a accelerated mobile page. And this one is a new type of Google Tag Manager, which is server side. And unless you know how to develop and deal with servers, this is completely not going to be ever relevant to basically most people. Then we're going to click Create. And again, the same with the Google Analytics. It's going to come down here with a whole load of T's and C's. I'm just going to hit refresh here. For some reason, it wants me to refresh. Okay, go. Key my T's and C's. And click yes. Great. Okay, now I'm going to cover this in another video, what to do with this piece of code here. So don't worry about that. We can do what we need to do without doing any install for the moment. So just go ahead and close this down. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to head over to tags. And obviously the purpose of this video is to show how to implement Google Analytics into our Google Tag Manager. So when we click New, under Tag Configuration, we're going to come and click Google Analytics Universal Analytics. Now, if you watched the other video, you know that we've set up our Universal Analytics and the Google Analytics 4. So we're going to cover both of those in this video, but for right now, we'll click Universal Analytics. And then you want to come back over to your Google Analytics. And because we're doing the Universal, we want to click the property that's UA that starts with UA. And then once we've got that, we want to come to tracking info and tracking code. Now, again, don't worry about what you see here. This would be if we were implementing it straight onto our clinic's website, which is we are not doing. We're using our Google Tag Manager. So I'm just going to copy this here. I'm going to use a shortcut on my keyboard. Some people, you can right click and also hit copy. And we're going to go back to our Google Tag Manager. Now we've just copied that number. And because we want this to fire on all pages of our website, we're going to click, make sure we have the page view selected. And then we're going to come here and we're going to call it new variable. And this is where we're going to paste in that UA number that we took from our Google Analytics. And then we're going to call this something useful. So this is going to be Google Analytics Tracking ID. And we click Save. And then we're going to come down to the triggering. So this is basically you telling your Google Tag Manager where you want this Google Analytics to appear. And if you remember, I said that I would like it on all pages. So I'm going to come here and click all pages with the view type, the type page view. And then before we save, we're going to call this something useful. And then we're going to click Save. So now that's our Google Analytics added to our Google Tag Manager, but we're not quite done yet because we're now going to add in the Google Analytics 4. And it's a very similar process to what we've just done. So again, come over to New. We're going to tag configuration. We're going to click this Google Analytics GA4 configuration. And we're going to head back over to our Google Analytics. And now this time, we're going to select this one that starts with GA4. The window looks a little bit different. So if you'd see there, I went data streams, clicked here for the relevant website. And what we're looking for is this measurement ID. And unlike the Google Analytics, Google's actually given us a little button that we can press that will actually copy this for us. So now that number is copied. We're going to head back to our Google Tag Manager and we're just going to paste that in. Now don't worry about all of this. This is quite advanced, so we can just ignore that for just now. We're going to triggering all pages. And before we save, I'm going to name this something relevant as well, Google Analytics 4. And we're hitting save. So now that's our Google Analytics implemented into our Google Tag Manager. And there's one final step of this process before we move on to another video, and it's to hit the submit button. I always like to give my versions a name just so I kind of can keep track. And we're going to hit publish. And once you see this, you know that your Google Tag Manager container is published. It's really important that every time you add something to your Google Tag Manager, when you're finished, you do hit that submit button. Otherwise, it will never actually go live onto the website. As I explained at the beginning of this video, we still need to actually put our Google Tag Manager onto the website, which we will cover in a video. However, there's a lot of variations because of a lot of different platforms. However, a lot of clinics out there these days have developers, and I'll talk through that as well, about how a developer can help you add this Google Tag Manager code to your website. But once that is added, we're then going to start collecting data in our Google Analytics, all thanks to the help of Google Tag Manager. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.